Hi, everyone, and welcome to the As I Amber podcast. It's June 30th. It's the end of Black Music Month, but I cannot not speak on this. It's the 2026 BET Awards that came on Sunday, hosted by comedian Drewski in Los Angeles, California. And with me today is our guest to the show, Samuel. How you doing?
Good, good. How you doing today, Amber?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I know it's been a while. Sometimes I hold my peace on my thoughts on things. Sometimes some stuff got to marinate in this clickbait world. So I have to think on some things. But yeah, I'm doing good. So let's jump right on into it. I'm a product of the 90s and the 2000s. And this BET is a different BET because how we watch television has changed, how we consume music has changed. And to get started, I was trying to figure out how am I going to watch the BET Awards when I don't have cable? Did you what were your thoughts on even trying to access the show?
So I know we talked about it offline. I didn't even watch it the day of, partly because I didn't have cable, but also just life in general. So, it's unfortunate, but in my mind I was like, so I know these YouTube clips are gonna come in handy. And I know TikTok is gonna make up anything that I don't see, because TikTok's the new TV, YouTube is the new TV, cable is the streaming channel. So that's just, where we're at with it now. So, you know.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting that the show was also streamed on the BET website. So even if you did not have access to financial means to watch it, you could for free for 24 hours. So I thought that was interesting. And just the way we consume music, I grew up on Free and AJ and Terrence and Roxy on 106 and Park, Big Tigger in the Basement, and just so much other shows that we grew up on in our generation. What were your thoughts on how are they nominating people? We're used to the number one video being the award recipient or the number one song on the radio, but people consume it differently. So, what were your thoughts on that?
It's changed the way that we interact with things now. I think you and I came up in an era where things were live. TRL, Request Live, 106 in Park. We saw it live, and we look forward to what's the results. What's going to be the number one video? Like we came up in that era as opposed to now where it's very impersonal. You can vote on a website. You could probably vote in an app. I don't know this to be a fact, but it's taken away the personal feel, and that's also affected how we interact with culture. Like we don't buy albums anymore, so that takes away from the I got this album. You ain't heard it yet? Well, you can just go online and hear it. You know what I'm saying? Does it matter who won, in our opinion? Not really, because we'll probably see it on social media. It's just taken away the. This was the only place you could go to see it, so it took everybody to be into this one experience. It's made it a disconnected experience. So
Yes, I vividly remember, and we're telling our age, but we're the like, bridge connectors, millennials. If you were born in
mm-hmm,
the 80s, early 90s, we just experienced a world where the only people on the internet were people our age.
mm-hmm,
Our parents didn't know how to access that,
mm-hmm.
and we're like the last generation to play outside. And I remember going on the playground, going changing classes, going to my locker, and people like, "Did you see that video? Did you hear this song?" I'm like, "No." And the only time you could watch that or hear that song, if you didn't have the CD, was on the TV program. So it is
Mm-hmm.
different. It is different. And behind me, I have this book. I highly recommend everyone reading it. It's called Walk Through Fire by Sheila Johnson. Now you're like, who is this? What does it got to do with BET Awards? She was married to BET founder Bob Johnson.
Bob Johnson. Yep.
This is T. This book, she deserves all the accolades. She helped build that network from the ground up. And I don't want to spoil anything. I'm pretty sure y'all have Google. Y'all can find out other things that happened. But the vision of BET came out during a time where MTV was not playing Black people on their music videos. Certain networks, music videos were a new thing. And so to see the visionaries, even though people have their ups and downs and their flaws, I have to give credit where credit is due to Bob and Sheila Johnson for the network they created called Black Entertainment Television. And we know the ownership has changed now. It's not necessarily owned by people of color anymore. And I feel as if sometimes that's the disconnect with the network. That's just my opinion. with all these cooking shows, podcasts, there's no way. If you would have said 20 years ago, BET would not have BET News or music videos or travel shows, cooking shows. I think they dropped the ball on that, but they could get it back rolling. Hey, you never know.
I think that they're starting to go in the right direction as far as how they're doing the tributes, the people that they brought in. That was a comfortable sign to me that they're maybe listening to what people are saying about BET and trying to restore it in that direction. First, definitely got to say props to Sheila Johnson because she made the network what it is. She made the BET that we know of the past to BET. And without her, it wouldn't have been that. But like you're saying, I think we're just in a time where everybody kind of wants things to go back to the era we remember. And like I said, the tributes for me, or the tribute that I saw in particular with Lauryn Hill, that kind of gave me some like, okay, maybe there's a chance that it'll go closer to giving the fans what they want, you know?
Yes. So, what did you think about Drewski as the host? Because I have my thoughts.
So I'll say this. I think Drewski, I'm gonna put Drewski in that category of internet comedians. Like he came up in the era after the Spoken Reasons. He came in the era after the Hot Damn I Rocks, where they were really just good at making content that was great for the internet. Drewski to me is still an internet comedian, and I put Desi Banks in there too. I would watch their videos all day. Would I go see them do stand up? That's not really their bag, but they have moments. I think he excels with some of his sketches, and I think that that is his lane. But I think you need someone that's very improvisational to really do a hosting for a television show. So I don't think he did a bad job, but the improvisational, skill, that's probably somebody else's wheelhouse. But what do you think?
I thought he's an internet comedian. Sketches are like a sociology 101 class. Hilarious, great commentary. If they brought back In Living Color, he'll most definitely be on there or producing it.
100.
Character. However, I do think Keke Palmer had a little more charisma, and she's an actress. She's accustomed to performance or theatrics, if you get my drift. Not saying Drewski isn't, but there's a difference between something live and something recorded. And I kind of wanted Monique, honestly. Monique set the tone. Comedic background doing stand-up all those years. You read the room, and sometimes people are accustomed to reading a script and staying on schedule, but sometimes you need to read the room, like, what you got over there? What's this? What's that? And can quick on their feet type thing. I did think it was funny when he did the zip line across the stage, like his sketch, but I really thought it was going to be dual hosts. I think if Keke and Drewski both would have hosted together, it would have been an opportunity to breathe. And as a behind the scenes person, I work behind the scenes of television. I'm always thinking, okay, when did they book these people? Because I had some questions about the pre-show and on-air show. If you could tell, they had Caresha, aka Young Miami, perform before the awards show on like a pre-show. Now, in my opinion, the pre-show is great for up-and-coming rising talent.
Correct. Not the biggest song of the summer.
Caresha is not up and coming. City Girl's been out for a couple of summers now. And even her solo career, I just thought it was crazy that you have the number one song, whether you love it, like it, or you getting a RICO charge off of it. Spin That. Why wasn't
it's the biggest song of the summer? Yeah.
Why wasn't she that stage performing Spin That at the BET Awards? Even when she went out to present an award, the whole audience was singing 50 Sunny Honey. It's catchy. Give the girl her things. I'm all about being fair. If we're gonna let Cardi perform 6 songs, why couldn't Caresha perform?
I think you're right on that, and I'm just being honest. That's another example of like a missed opportunity. Because when I thought of BET Awards, I thought of the same. Like, because I could swear I remember a time when he wasn't up and coming, but I could remember a time when Nipsey was probably doing like before the show. And it's not saying he was up and coming, but he hadn't had his moment yet. Mm-hmm. But that's the perfect audience for, hey, people who may not know, this is the person that you should know. Caresha, I think, has already taken everybody's attention. Not only just a song, she's on a song with Fat Joe now. Like, she's the biggest artist of the year in the last 2 months, I'd say. She's the biggest. Let me say that. The last 2 months have been hers. This song has been hers. So that would have been a good moment to give her that platform. I think you also got to pay attention to demographics. Like, yes, our generation is watching, but I'm sure the younger generation is watching. They may not be as familiar with Tip. I love Tip. That may not be what they want to hear. They
Yes.
might want to hear Carisha. They might want to hear, people from their generation.
I did think it was nice. I love T.I. coming down on the crown and the stage presence. He had King, his son King,
Had his
driving.
son driving. Yeah.
Loved it. I love it because that's my era. We're from Georgia. Like to see the South represented with T.I. opening up was amazing to me. I did think it was interesting, this D'Angelo tribute and the memoriam when they put the slideshow of the deceased people. I had some concerns about what I saw or who I did not see. They did not have the Reverend Jesse Jackson on that slideshow. Or if I'm wrong, let me know. But I did not see him on there. But I also didn't see Angie Stone.
Nope.
And I was confused because Angie Stone and D'Angelo have a child together. And
Yeah, and if I'm mistaken, was their child there?
yeah, he was on stage. He
So
had
Michael
on
was there.
scarf. He was on stage, and his other siblings. I think D'Angelo had the two other children with someone else.
Mm.
But Glow tribute, I thought could have been a little bit better. I did see Duran Bernard, but I think they could have performed more songs people were more mainstream would know, like How Does It Feel, Cruising, Lady, Brown Sugar. Now I love Ari Lennox, but I was surprised to see her up there on his tribute. And I really wanted to know, like, where are the men who were singers? Like I said, Luke James, Lucky Day, Eric Bellinger, so many other male singers.
Elmian, Xavier Omar, like
Haim Devon, like I think there was a missed opportunity. We can be Monday morning quarterbacks and super analyze it, but I'm a music lover. So when I saw that, I was like, huh? We can
hey,
give the microphone to the audience right now, and there are people in that room that can out sing and perform better. So I,
I think that's one of those things. It's hard with D'Angelo because I look at him as just like as a once in a generational talent. But to do what I've realized with the overarching theme is you have to have a lot of people in the room when you do tributes, when you do lifetime achievement awards, because there's so much context that has to be given. I think when you do a D'Angelo tribute, there's a lot of context that has to be given. You have to mention Angie Stone, even though it's a controversial relationship with its obvious issues, the age difference, etc. Like, but you gotta touch those things. You gotta have the right person to do it. And even with the Icon Award, like if you're giving someone an Icon Award, I'm not saying it's time based, but you have to make sure that when you do things, you can tell that people have vetted it, thought it through, and then gave it its proper due. If that makes sense.
it makes absolute sense because I kind of posed the question on threads. What is your definition of an icon? And in my opinion, I love Tiana Taylor's creativity. She's been performing since she was a child. I remember being introduced to her on MTV Super Sweet 16. She's done choreography, videos, producing in front of the camera, behind the scenes. She's done her thing. I'm not going to take away her talent, but when I hear icon and Tiana Taylor, they're not in the same category to me. I'm not saying she isn't talented. I think she could have got artist or entertainer of the year. And maybe to some, she is an icon. But when I think of icon, I'm thinking people that just go off a first name basis. Michael, Janet, Aretha,
Beyonce.
Beyonce. Like that is an icon where you can go to like any demographic and people know who that person is. You can go to Alabama, you can go to Antarctica, people will know who Michael Jackson is. He was an icon. And maybe that was just in the back of my head because it's been over 15 years since he passed away recent. The anniversary of his death came up and the biopic came out earlier this year. And I was like, he literally was an icon. So to
Yeah,
put
he was.
people who, like the older people say, I got shoes older than you in the category was kind of like, is it premature? I mean, I'm all for giving people their talent and they're giving them their credit and their flowers while they're here. But I do think it should have been two separate awards. I think there should be a entertainer of the year, like Tiana Taylor is that girl. I'm not taking it away from her. But an icon is somebody like a living legend, and I don't know if he's already received it. Stevie Wonder. He's like
He's an
Beethoven
icon.
to me. Like, why not? You know,
And
I just was wondering about that.
I think just hearing what you're saying, I want to first give Tayana her props because, like I said, she has been doing it probably 20 plus years, like easily. Not gonna act like One Battle After Another wasn't, regarded as the best movie of the year. Regarded. She had a lot of praise this year. She had a really great year. I definitely think you could say cultural. You could say cultural icon. Even I'm okay with even saying in our culture she's an icon. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just think there's just the qualifiers are just they're not enough categories to properly honor people. So we have to give people broad titles because, like you said, in our culture, she has moved some major mountains. But Janet Jackson opening up for her is insane to me. It should be the opposite way. That's just me. But I ain't dissing because, like I said, she got an Oscar. She's done her thing. She's doing her thing, and she's continuing to rise up. But I just think a cultural icon award or a cultural magnet or something like that, sure. But when you think of Janet Jackson speaking for somebody, like, oh shoot, all right, well Beyonce's up there, or Oprah up there, or somebody else. And I'm not saying other people outside of respectability politics can't be like I get all that, but you know,
Love you,
it's just
Tiana.
yes,
The,
we do. Ain't no hate. And if
back
you
in,
still feel that way, Tiana, that's still cool. That's your opinion.
but yeah, I'm just happy to see another Black woman honor another Black woman. Oftentimes in an industry where older women can be sometimes disrespectful to the younger generation because they see them as a threat or
For sure.
jealousy, or you didn't have to go through what I went through, so you don't deserve this. I didn't see that with Janet. I really saw
No,
a big sister, big cousin, mentee type relationship. So that was beautiful to see in real time on camera, and respecting people and honoring them in their face, in the public eye. That was nice to see, honestly. But I was just
it
curious,
was.
the icon. And so that proves me to this question. So, because there's no more 106 & Park or TRL, I'm really doing mental gymnastics trying to figure out why is Jill Scott in the same category as Kehlani when to me they're totally different genres. And I don't know what Kehlani identifies as. I believe she is a Black woman, but when we have these categories that you have 12 people who are totally different genres, like Tim's is Afro beats. Jill Scott might be considered neo soul. When I listen to Kehlani, she's going to be played on the same station that plays Taylor Swift.
Correct.
Like, it's some people will never be crossover, and that's cool. That's not their audience. Keep it cute, keep it mute, keep it moving. But when we start talking about placing people in categories, it's just, I would love to know if they would put on the screen these were the criteria to be nominated. Because back in our day, when we watched 106 & Park, it was based off who had the number 10 top 10 videos. Like, people would have their Lauryn Hill icon. You did one solo album and it's still relevant. People are still talking about it, writing papers on it. So it's not about quality, more so quantity.
Definitely, I think with that, and I think artists have said it. Different artists have talked about all the things that we really need in our culture. The reality of it is, as Black people, we've got to pioneer those things. We've got to have award shows where you have a category. And we don't like labels. I get artists don't like it, but there needs to be a category for conscious rap. There needs to be a category for neo soul type of music. There needs to be a category for pop rap or pop R&B. There needs to be a category for gospel R&B, or not so much gospel R&B, but like gospel that has rap elements to it. Like, I know the younger generation hates genres. I know artists hate being boxed in, but the music cannot be honored properly if it's put in the same category. And you say it should because it was 30 years ago, but we're not in that time. We're
Right.
not in that time.
And I would also love to see them add other genres to the BET Awards, like country music and like alternative, because right now we can listen to K Michelle, who has a country album, and we can also listen to Kaytranada, who has electronic alternative. Like, they have fan bases, and I just feel like we got to honor heavy metal rock. We got people like Lenny Kravitz, Willow
I
Smith.
was just gonna say Lenny.
So I just feel like they need to be honored too, versus
And
letting someone twerk on stage for 20 minutes. I just felt like we could have added some more elements. That's just me.
that's why I think need to have more people at the table, because inclusivity is more than just gender. Inclusivity is more than just age. Inclusivity is the stuff that you don't per se like all the time, but it's still a reflection of the black experience. Lenny Kravitz was right. His music is a part of the black experience. Whether or not we identify with something doesn't mean that people don't identify, because we're not monolithic, but all our music is honored and sounds the same. That doesn't track. And what made Lauryn Hill, dope, since we mentioned her, is it's really not as monolithic as people think. Lauryn Hill is spitting on there like an artist, like a rapper, but it's art. But there's gospel elements, but there's R&B elements to it. So it's like when you listen to like the Miseducation, you hear obvious gospel, you hear obvious like Caribbean influence on it, you hear obvious R&B, you hear obvious rap. Like it's all those elements in there, and it competed with everyone else because it was an inclusive sound. It wasn't just you wouldn't hear this and say, well, only black people listen to this. People listen to this, but especially black people.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's amazing that you were talking about her sound, because I feel like Lauryn Hill was groundbreaking. In that time period, there was not a lot of dark skinned black women who were getting limelight. She was in Sister Act 2. She was in Fugees, a group, and you have a solo album. That time period, her run and representation, because she did not, like India Ari said, she was not the average girl from the video. She had her natural hair, and I would have loved, I don't know the dynamic, but I really thought India Ari was going to pop out on the Lauryn Hill tribute. I really did. But oh well, but I do think that it was an amazing tribute. I would have also have loved to seen John Legend at the piano for Everything Is Everything, because he really was
he did the piano for it. Yeah.
for. I did like seeing Jamie Foxx and his daughter play a little intro for Kaylani, but I don't know what kind of budget BET had, what kind of schedules people had. But if John Legend was on the piano and India Ari was her guitar, I would have fainted. But hey.
That would have been amazing, and I think it still is a chance for that to happen because it'll be 30 in 2 years, so
Mhm.
it's still possible. I think just listening to what you're saying about Lauryn Hill, the reality of it is, this is someone who had basically the number one record in hip hop with the Fugees. And she made the decision to show the world that she could do it without the Fugees, because as good as she was on the Fugees album, people were talking about the genius of Wyclef. And she basically put all her frustration and everything into one album. And, I hear a lot of people like, it's one album, but it's one album that I can still play 50 years from now. My daughter will hear the Miseducation and probably still like it. It's going to be in the Library of Congress if it's not in there already. Like it's that type of album to where if you only got to be right once. If you strike lightning one time, like she did, that's all you really need.
She came out the gate swinging, and that's
Yeah,
rare days. I feel like we don't listen to the cohesive full album anymore because everything is click, 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 streams, whatever.
yes, and I think people also forget the fact, like, Lauren had been out at that point like 5 years, I want to say, because like the Fugees' first record, Blended on Reality, that came out like 92, I think, 93. Like when the score came out, they had already been making music. And then the score came out and it blew up. But then she decided to she was at that point, she knew who she wanted to be as an artist. I think people are looking at the number of albums, like this is her only album. She was an artist who had already honed her craft. And like what's missing, I think, with some people. Like it's not the album you make, it's how much preparation and you comes into the album.
And also, I do love when people take breaks, because you need to take a break. You're a human being, not a machine. We're not the algorithm, you know? And I also feel as if, this is just my personal opinion, people are putting out back to back to back to back the albums to fulfill contracts and not from the art perspective, because you're trying to fulfill a contract so you can move on and be done. But I'd rather people spend a little bit more time or put an album out every 3 years or every 5 to 10 years. I think people our consumption is different. So it's a business, it's a music business, and more people are getting money off of merchandise and touring than they are streams.
Definitely. And I think the industry has forced it into that direction where if you're not on people's minds, you can't earn money. And unless you're a top earner, you can't afford to, take that type of time off. But I think also it kind of tells people want music that really makes them feel something.
Mhm.
And to do that, you're going to have to take that type of risk. And I think it's going to start with the bigger artists deciding, you know what, I think I'm just going to do my own thing and go direct to consumer. It's going to take them taking some of those risks, or it's going to take to us just deciding we're just not going to keep listening to it and just walk away from it.
That's a good point. That's a good point because it is a business. I was happy to see Rhapsody up there and Tierra Whack and Queen Latifah, the multi hyphenate people up there for Lauren was nice to see. And then Lauren was like, I'm gonna sing my own song, because I don't know who else could, who was actually available and there at that moment. One thing that stood out, I loved her voice since I first heard it when I was little, watching Sister Act to Tanya Blount singing Joyful, Joyful. Like
Got that.
the chills on my arm when her voice sings, it is what the church people call anointed. And everybody, you can't AI that. You have soul is you either got it or you don't. And I know the music industry is changing, but I really appreciated that they got her, to sing, and everybody knew that voice when she opened up her mouth and sang. Now, it would have been nice to see Cheryl Lee Ralph and be like, singing does pay the bills. If you know, you know from the
That'd
movie.
have been dope. That
But
would have been dope.
I do think it was a nice award show, but there were some moments where I kind of got bored, or I'm getting older, so I'm like, they need to have somebody put the artist name up on the screen, like, oh, that's so and so. I heard that on TikTok, because I don't know who is that.
That's what I say once again. You got to have a real team of people to consider these things because these are all dynamics. Like, if somebody's looking at it, they're going to be like, hey, if I'm 50, I don't know who that is. And I ain't
Mhm.
even say 50. There's 25-year-olds who don't. It's like there's people who don't know Tierra Whack is. There's people who don't know Rhapsody are. And so it's like you just have to think about your audience sometimes. I think context is everything with people enjoying art. And I know you're not supposed to explain everything. The art's supposed to speak for itself, but like sometimes you got to lead the listener. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, that's a good point. So, y'all, I know we could go on about music and the
we
state
could.
of today, but I really appreciate you taking time to be on here. Now, you have something going on. I like how everybody's pivoting into the tech realm. What do you talk about?
No, so yeah, I just decided to create my own web app. Web app basically is called Primers, and Primers is just a historical trivia based app. Like it's a lot of information about figures, events, ideas, and people that you should know about as a black person or person in general. But just things I've learned about in my life, and I feel like people should learn and know about. And I tried to make as much of it free as I can, but there's some premium information as well. And the hope is that people can ingest it, and $4.99 you can get access to just an unlimited amount of information, and it's just bite sized because I know people's attention span isn't the longest, but you'll learn a name or an event or something that you didn't know before. That's a guarantee.
Cool. So, how can I go, or how can our viewers, listeners, learn how to download this app? Is it on
Yeah,
Google?
so I have I can, once again, I attach the link to it, but I have a website. It's also on my social media as well. But it's
Okay.
just it's an app, yeah, and it's a web based app. You can click on the app on your phone. You can add it to your browser. You can share it and add it to your home screen to where you can just look at it on your screen all day if you want to. So it's there.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you so much for taking time to be part of the As I Amber podcast, y'all. I promise I'll do more, but it's about quality, not quantity. So you'll see
Quality, not quantity.
when the spirit moves me to talk. In the meantime, you all can follow me at As I Amber on Instagram and Threads and TikTok. And you can also check out Gadget Grants Tech. That is my tech support company where I show older adults, whether it's your mom, your aunt, your auntie, cousin, friend, neighbor, how to use their smartphone. So, yeah, that's about it. Thank y'all for joining us. Stay hydrated, drink
Please
water,
do.
and mind your business. See you later.
Peace,
Bye.
y'all.